How you doing, Swarna?
Good.
I'm
Hey,
great.
all.
Hey, Randy. Thanks for joining. How's
Yes,
it how's it going?
guys, very well. Thank you.
Good, good. Got a few more coming in. Oh, he's watching, yeah. And then we have Aether joining. So let's see. Let's see. With three or four more investors coming, and Bruce is, I guess Aaron is coming today.
Yes, yes. Aaron, Rollins, and Wolfgang are coming today. I'm
Okay.
just here a little bit early.
All right. Yeah, we're about to kick off here in a few minutes to do a short introduction so we can show people what we're doing here. And then let me get that up right quick. Do that one first. Venkat. Hey, Venkat, thanks for joining.
Hey,
Got
all.
a
How are you? Thanks for the invitation.
You bet, you bet. Well, we got our first speakers here and some of our investors here. So let me go and do the introduction here, and we'll get more people coming in a moment. Then we'll kick off with Randy's presentation first, Swarner second, and then Aaron at Aether will come third. But let me go and share my screen and get kick off here. Let me see. So. So yeah, I want to thank everybody today gathering today for another great presentation. We have three great presenters today. We have five, six investors that will be here shortly, and want to thank you for joining. And for those who don't know us, we have some new people in the room. We help startups and investors connect for funding. The way we do that is we help coach on fundraise strategy, valuations analysis. We help with the campaign, also help with putting the pitch decks together and an analysis of the deal itself. In short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money and putting you in front of investors. So with that, let's go to the next one. We also help form capital for the early stage ecosystem. We help high net worth start family offices because they fund emerging managers. We help VC funds raise funding from the family offices, and we help angel groups find members for their group through our outreach. And we've done over 35 angel groups where we've done marketing campaigns to help build up their network as well and continue to do so. So we're a big fan of the early stage ecosystem and trying to get more capital to go into it as well. Let's see. This is the 10 Capital team. We have added on Mustafa Shahad, who's here today. We've expanded into the Middle East, North Africa region. If you have any questions about that, let us know. We are reaching out to many of the VCs in the area and pretty soon the angel groups in the Middle East to see if there's a fit between our companies and their thesis. We've had one event already, March 31st, had 10 investors on the panel, 10 companies from MENA pitch, and we had 12 introductions come out of it, and those are still moving forward. So it was a good kickoff, and we're continuing to look forward to doing more in the region itself. We've also launched a Substack newsletter. If you want to learn more about 10 Capital and the AI tools that we use, go ahead and take a picture of that QR code, and you can subscribe to it at no cost and get some great tools out of it that you can use for your investing. Next is we also, if you're a startup in the room and you're looking to raise funding, you can take a picture of that QR code and fill out the form, and we'll follow up to see if this program is a good fit for you. So with that, let's go ahead and kick in and meet our first presenter today. We have with us Randy Hubble of Solaris Endovascular. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen and come back, and let's have Randy kick off and lead us in the first presentation. Randy, if you want to launch your slides and kick off when ready. Each company will have 10 minutes to pitch and 10 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll follow up afterwards.
Sure. Thank you, Hall. Okay. Hey, folks, this is Randy Hubble, CEO for Solaris Endovascular. We're a medical device company with a platform technology. In that platform, we have two products in the advanced stage. One's commercial, one is transformational in a completed phase two. We're raising a $5 million convertible note with a 25% discount. We've had plenty of due diligence completed on it by multiple VCs and angel groups. Here's the highlight. So our first product is called Solaris SX. It's a self-expanding coverage stent. It's generating $5 million of sales OUS. The second product has breakthrough designation from the FDA just declared a month ago because of our outstanding phase two clinical data that we presented to them on Solaris DE, which is a self-expanding coverage stent using the SX platform and puts a drug on it. We've got strong interest from strategics as we're the only place in the world that they can get this technology. Management team's done this before. We've been extremely capital efficient. We treat the arteries and veins of dialysis patients and patients with peripheral artery disease. So they'll get a lesion, a fistula, a stenosis, and a blockage. It's all the same thing. It's scar tissue. It stops the flow. It needs to be repaired. We're in the repair business. So once that lesion, that vessel fails, it is repaired, and we have great data to show that we do it better and more durable than other ways of repairing these vessels. So the first product, as I mentioned, is Solaris XX. It is approved in 45 countries, $5 million annual recurring revenue. It's got three competitors. We compete overseas. We do not have this product in the US. We will not bring it to the US because the next product is the one we're bringing to the US. It's a combination product, Solaris DE, standing for drug-eluting. It takes that first stent and it puts drug on those metal edges. Just if you look at the very edge of that stent, we put a very potent and safe drug on that, and we have fantastic phase two clinical data, and the FDA's granted us breakthrough designation. So back to the first product, it's got great combination of radial force or strength married with flexibility. It's taken share from the three competitors, one from Gore, Bard/BD, and Merit. In the areas where we compete, we go through independent distributors. So we do have a bit of a fragmented approach where we do have good support and commercialization. We are number one market share in Turkey and in Brazil. We have good data on this product. The iliac is the artery in your groin. Patency means the vessel's open. So at 12 months, 95% patency in a European study. With dialysis access patients at 6 months, they measure target lesion primary patency. Is it still open at 6 months after they repair a lesion? And with balloon angioplasty, also called PTA, only about half are still working, and a repeat procedure needs to be done. With Solaris SX, we have that at 75% patency. That's a good pickup from standard of care, which is PTA, but it's still not enough. There still needs to be help for these patients. And the problem with the 25% that fail, and it's true with our product as well as other products, this is a picture of a competitive product, is edge restenosis. What you're looking at here is the metal mesh, and then that black tube in the middle is actually contrast showing blood flowing. The white milky part are the edges. So the cells migrate through on the edges and cause edge restenosis. This is the last frontier that needs to be solved so that we can improve the patencies of these repairs. And this is what's been done with Solaris drug-eluting. It uses sirolimus, a well-known anti-proliferative drug, anti-inflammatory, very safe. It was the first drug to be used on the first ever drug-eluting stent 24 years ago. That I was the launch leader of at J&J, called Cypher. That was in the coronary. We had bare metal stents that had restenosis at 6 months of 30%. We came out with Cypher, a combination product that put drug on the bare metal stent, and we brought it down to 3% at 6 months. So it ended up selling $1 billion in 8 months. We're looking to repeat that in the peripheral system. We have phase two data, 115 patients. As I mentioned already, PTA patency rate's only about 50%. The non-drug-eluting coverage stent, this is a combination of our product, Gore, Bard, and Merit, all have about 70 to 75% patency, and we have 95% patency. The picture on the right shows that there's no neointimal hypoplasia at 6 months, meaning no scar tissue. We have pictures showing the same thing at 12 months. So it's a very, very durable repair, meaning we're going to save these patients repeat procedures, hospitalizations, and catheters that can induce infection. It's a large market, 1.5 billion growing to 3 billion. This company's been set up for an exit. I worked for J&J for 13 years, Boston Scientific for 5. I was the commercial leader on a number of acquisitions. These are the 6 things that I believe need to be true to really seduce a multinational into an acquisition. You want to create unencumbered revenue at time equals 0. So you need an FDA-approved product with highly differentiated technology that meets an unmet need, issued patent, compelling data, clear path to reimbursement, fully engaged KOLs, and scalable manufacturing. We're on path to have all 6 of these in place in 3 to 4 years. The market is, I set this company up for an exit because I knew these companies that you see here are already in the endovascular space with substantial commercial infrastructure, sales reps, doctors, clinical specialists. They're spending millions of dollars every year. The way they grow is they acquire new technologies called tuck-ins. We are just specifically set up as a pure play or a tuck-in. These companies have already expressed interest, some of them, which not seen on here are the 3 competitors. They're also interested because they don't have a drug-eluting version, and we would potentially put them out of business in this category. So our $5 million convertible note is designed to hit 2026 milestones. I started this late last year. We've hit the milestones we said we're going to hit. We're doing what we said we were going to do. We're spending the money we said we would, and it's been a rolling close, and it's been very successful. We have hired our FTEs. We have breakthrough designation. Our IDE is what allows us to do the pivotal study for approval. We've already submitted part 1 and gotten feedback from the FDA. So this is a pretty simple play. It's a 1 pivotal study, 1 PMA, and then an exit. This will be an exit before commercialization. This will be commercialized by a large multinational. We've got $5 million convertible note. We're going to raise a $25 million Series A. We have a couple of VCs in due diligence now to run that Series A. So we're going to close this round on the convertible note June 30th, and then start a process for the equity round, which would allow the convertible notes to convert to equity at a discount. $50 million valuation cap, and we're projecting for bridge investors 10 to 12x return. This is based off of a substantial revenue curve, both the revenue we get from OUS now, as well as the future launch of the drug-eluting in the US, which is a big market. That's what everybody's looking for. So I've done this before. I was J&J 13 years, Boston Scientific, IBM, but also Cardiva Medical startup was acquired for $500 million by Haemonetics. Carmel was a spin out of Carnegie Mellon over 7 years that I took public on the NASDAQ for $150 million valuation. Dr. Costa is a chief scientific medical officer, interventional cardiologist, and he's very, very knowledgeable in this field. So to close, we have a $5 million raise. We've got 3.3 closed. We've got 2 VCs, one who has soft circled $1 million, the other soft circled $3 million. So we'll certainly exceed the 5. We can go up to 10. We're in June now, so it's a $50 million valuation cap, and this will close on June 30th as part of our final close with one or both of those VCs. Thank you.
Great presentation, Randy. Mohammed, what's your first question?
Hey, Randy, thank you for the presentation. Very thorough. Few questions I have in mind, if I can get to them. One is, why did you choose the Turkey and Brazilian market to begin with? Like, they seem odd to me, but just enlighten me as to why those markets were favorable for you.
Look, this company's only been around for less than 2 years, and this technology certainly takes a lot longer than 2 years. I acquired the technology from Cytec Medical, a Brazilian company. They have been in drug-eluting stents in the coronary for 10 years. They've been in the peripheral space with the self-expanding electrospun PTFE for 5 years, and they combined the two and did the phase 2 study. They did not have any presence in the US, so they have been commercializing their technologies in multiple therapeutic areas for years, had no presence in the U.S. Dr. Costa is the CEO. He's a good friend of mine. And we said, I'll teach them how we set up a U.S. company that could have an exit.
Got it. And you seem to already have a clear view on the strategic exit. Do you have a buyer in mind, given your history in the space and that you have been part of that ecosystem? Do you have like a target in sight that you say this would be the best strategic buyer? I'm already in talks with this buyer.
Yes, I would say Boston Scientific has been in due diligence. Gore has had multiple conversations with us, including a meeting with the CEO. Terumo has an NDA signed. Rockwell is a dialysis company. So there's multiple companies that are interested because of this is the only way they can get in that space. We are going to be looking at maybe having a strategic lead the round for the equity round for the conversion. But we also have a VC that told me on Thursday they're very, very interested and they'll move fast and they're in due diligence.
Very, very good. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. And Margaret, what's your questions?
Randy, help me to understand your differentiation here. I mean, drug-eluting stents, there are many out there in the field. What makes this particularly special and different that, Boston Scientific just cannot do?
Yeah, so it's a great question. This is a combination of three different elements that nobody else has. A nitinol stent covered with electrospun PTFE and a drug on the edges. Nobody else has all three. There are bare metal stents. I'm sorry, there's stents without electrospun PTFE or any PTFE whatsoever. They're not covered stents. They're regular stents with a drug on it. Those stents are not used in a lot of the procedures, particularly dialysis access, because the PTFE protects the injury. It's like if you have a wound, it ends up being like a bandage from the turbulent and shear force of the blood flow. And so it's been tested, and those stents without PTFE don't work in certain applications, such as dialysis access, the renals, and some iliac procedures.
I see. And this is patent protected, and that's the reason why they're looking at this, because I mean, they could have developed this too, right?
They could have, Margaret, but they didn't. So this is a 10-year development project, probably $100 million. It's a PMA. It's, multiple clinical studies. They don't like to do those. It comes right off of their P&L.
Yes.
They'd much rather have somebody else do it and then take cash off the balance sheet and acquire it at T = 0. So they get revenue at the time that they acquire it, which is the best valuation model because it has the biggest impact on NPV and discounted cash flow analysis.
I see. And tell me, what is your acquisition inflection point?
So I think the window opens. I don't think we would sell the company before we get the 12-month data from our intermediate dose. The data I showed you was the low dose. We think we're going to even do better than that. And that 12-month data will become available early 2028. So 2 years from now, I think that's when the window opens. There has been a trend in medical devices that they don't wait to the regulatory approval. They are buying assets in phase 3. But our $25 million Series A will take us all the way through regulatory approval. And so it'll be sometime between early 2028 and early 2030.
Great. Well, thank you, Randy.
Great. Randy, can you talk about your background and how you got to this point, and how this game plan may be a standard one for you?
Yeah, so I've, I had a lot of corporate experience, IBM, Boston Scientific, J&J. I was the launch leader for Cypher, the biggest drug launch, medical device launch ever. I did do 2 startups before my 13 years at J&J, and I've owned my 4th startup after. Kind of the model I use is I look for assets that I can advance through the clinical regulatory process that have patents or patent pendings, have clinical data meeting a significant unmet need, and then form a Delaware C Corp and acquire the assets using equity, and then go raise money and then advance it so that it can be acquired by a multinational as a tuck-in. So I've done this a couple of times, and this is the model that I think is the most efficient for myself and for my investors.
Great. And can you talk about the team you're going to build around this when you get the funding to go to the next level?
Yeah, so well, Dr. Costa is the CEO of SciTech, the company we acquired it from, but he's also the Chief Scientific and Medical Officer for us. Dr. Vargo is somebody who worked with me at Carmel for 7 years, and she's been working with me for 3 here. She's our VP of regulatory. We just hired a CTO that has gotten a product approved with electrospun PTFE. He was also part of a Boston Scientific at one point of his career on a drug-eluting stent. So he knows nitinol, he knows electrospun, and he knows the drug-eluting. So we're very excited for him to start in July. Then I've got a CFO in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that starts tomorrow. So we're going to keep building the team. I've got a couple of engineers we're interviewing for being located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well.
So what's the next step after this raise? At the end of June, when you close this round and start the next round, what's the next step for you guys?
So based off of this round, we'll have enough money to get us in through early 2027, just to get the IDE, the step 2 of the IDE, but not enough to start enrolling patients. Sometime between July and December, we will close on a Series A equity round. That will convert all the debt into preferred shares at a discount, either 25% or greater, depending on the valuation. And that process is already underway. So we're kind of doing a push-pull here. We're stopping the convertible note on June 30th, and then July we'll start a process for the equity round. Like I said, I have a VC that is a very strong brand name VC in due diligence now. They know the endovascular space very well. They won't have this type of opportunity in many other deals, so we're very competitive. I think there's a good chance we could close with them in 2 or 3 months. If not, we have an investment banker that's given us an engagement letter that wants to run a process for us to get the funding by October. We haven't signed that yet because I want to see what the VC is going to do.
Okay, great. And that's our time. Thanks so much for a great presentation, Randy, and great questions, Mohammed and Margaret. With that, let's move to our next presenter, Aaron of Aether. Aaron, if you want to launch your slides and kick off when ready.
Absolutely. Okay. Can you see and hear okay?
We hear you fine. We see your slides. If you want to go into full stream mode, you're good to go.
Okay, very good. Thanks all for hosting us today. Thanks everyone for attending and learning more about this opportunity. So we're addressing the global opioid crisis with a novel medicine. And this novel medicine is an addiction modulator that has never really been tried before because it's a relatively new invention. The global opioid crisis continues to march along in spite of the efforts to arrest it, of course. The primary reason for that is because if you're suffering from chronic pain or even acute pain, there really are no other alternatives if that pain is moderate or severe level. So people get on opioids, and then, of course, there's a tendency then for addiction, actually, or at least a risk of addiction. So our novel modulator, which we'll talk about, is being developed as a non-addictive pain therapy, as well as a single agent as a treatment for opioid use disorder. We also have data demonstrate we can prevent and or treat babies born with neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome, which is about an instance of about 30,000, almost 30,000 babies born each year. There's some pretty heavy hitters behind this in terms of scientific and clinical development. And you see the quote there from Dr. Skolnick. So the investment thesis here is basically we're targeting a 10x return to our investors within 2.5 years based on 2 clinical studies we have programmed to be conducted in Australia. We can do this cheaper and faster. So we're raising a $10 million note. We'll get into the terms of the note. We've already, when you think about investing in early stage biotech, most people are concerned about a couple things. They're typically concerned about safety and risk, and they're typically concerned, a drug's going to fail safety right out of the gate, as an example, or they're concerned about the time necessary to actually diligence the asset and the technology. I think we can address both of those quite rapidly. First of all, we've already completed human safety. Got a clinical candidate that's got clean tox in fish species. We've got strong evidence that it works in animal models that we historically have been known to be predictive of the human condition. So it's relatively de-risked for this stage of development. Secondarily, we've got a technical diligence report from our lead investor, and also Princeton Northwest Forum just launched a diligence team, and any investor is welcome to piggyback on that effort. And that's going to be happening the next about 4 meetings over the next 3 weeks, basically, before they draft the report. So the modulator can be combined with an opioid and is being combined with an opioid to develop as a pain. So the ultimate commercial formulation will be a single asset, single compound, with the combination of our drug combined with an opioid as a non-addictive opioid. The value proposition on that is an opioid, a pill that provides opioid equivalent analgesia without the risk of addiction. And I'll get into the competitors, but no one else can make that claim that's in development. The other focus we have is generating safety data for the NALS indication. The reason for that is because NALS is a pediatric orphan disease, which of course qualifies then for the pediatric review voucher. The last one sold for about $200 million. Also would qualify for accelerated approval. So the pain market is quite significant. Roughly about 8% of the adult population last year had a level of chronic pain that caused them to alter their life or work schedule. So the market today is big just for opioids. And then when you look at the latent demand due to prescription hesitancy, it's even larger. And then, of course, you add in ex-US, it's quite significant. Also, recent commercial analogs in the pharmaceutical markets tell us that when there has been a standard of care with a lousy track record from a safety perspective on the market, and a new safer alternative comes along, the market converts quite rapidly. On the right, there is an example of the anticoagulant market converting quite rapidly to the safer alternatives. The team is been there, done that team. Rick Hawkins is a serial entrepreneur with a number of successful company builds and exits. Myself, I've held leadership positions at large pharma, including Amgen and Novartis. In addition, I was part of the early team of Coherus that built that company from startup to basically IPO to $1.2 billion market cap within a very short time period. Dr. Bruce Embert, who's on the call to handle Q&A, has developed and registered a number of successful drugs for addiction. Wolfgang Sadi is our founder of UCSF and Ohio State University. He's a world-renowned researcher in the area of addiction biology. He's got over 400 publications. And Laurence Noor is a veteran chief operating officer, of course, as well. So let's talk briefly about how this drug works. So one of Wolfgang's primary discoveries or key insights was first elucidating exactly how opioids drive dependence. And that's illustrated here. What they actually do is they bind the receptor in the brain, and then after repeat stimulation, convert them to a different form called the active state, where they keep signaling. So the opioids actually act as a trigger to basically kind of, just fire up this receptor complex and make it really loud. And when it does that, it then drives all the downstream bad signals like dependence, hyperalgesia, drug seeking. But in addition to the good signals like analgesia. So the question is, can we somehow shut off the signaling of the negative stuff and preserve the analgesic benefit? So he experimented with compounds and found this one, ATX-1209, that basically has the same binding kinetics as the opioids, binds to that receptor and basically gradually reverses it back to the resting state. But it doesn't have a level of antagonist activity that actually shuts off the analgesic signal. So this provides us the ability to basically preserve analgesic signals from an opioid without while reducing the negative signals. So to prove this out, we're going to go to Australia. We're going to establish what we call a proof of principle, in patients on chronic opioid therapy. And we believe this will be a significant value inflection point based on recent deals done in the non-addictive pain space. So if this is successful, then we'll be looking likely for an exit at that point. If we don't get the exit, we can go straight into a now registration study, which would be an approvable study with the FDA because it's a pediatric orphan disease. So the goal with the study in Australia is basically to enroll patients who are on chronic opioid therapy and give them a dose of our drug 4 weeks. And at the end of that 4 weeks, we should see a decrease, or the goal anyway, is to see a decrease in dependence score from baseline and no change in the analgesic score. So the clinical objective is twofold. One, generate the proof of principle for basically 2 product profiles. If we can demonstrate that, we've got a proof of principle for this drug combined with an opioid as a non-addictive opioid pain therapy. We also have proof of principle that it can be used to treat opioid use disorder. The other clinical objective is to take the safety data from the study and go to the FDA and go straight into a registration study analysis. These tools that we're using to measure pain and dependence are all, clinically validated tools that are used in practice for these kind of studies. So from an investor perspective, close a note, $10 million, $13.3 million pre-money valuation. We go make a batch of clinical material, GMP grade, go to Australia, conduct 2 studies, the one I just described in a PK dose ranging study before that. And then if we get a positive readout, being defined again as change from baseline dependence, no change in then there's been 2 recent deals done in the biopharma industry. The floor on those deals were $300 million. We'll have a level of clinical validation with Australian studies that exceeds the level of validation out of those assets at the time of those deals. So based on those 2 data points alone, we'd expect conservatively target the 10x return for these investors coming into this round. If we don't get the exit we like, or we want to continue to develop, it's not a series of anything. It's 1 more round, $35 to $40 million. Go do a now registration study, and that would, of course, be an exit opportunity as well as qualify for a PRV if we're successful. So I mentioned that nobody else can make this claim. Here's a summary of various drug targets in development for pain in phase 2 or later. You can think about pain drugs as either being, strong in efficacy or strong in safety. But there's very few that, really none that are both. So on the scale of analgesic benefit versus safety, opioids provides the best pain relief, but obviously have a lousy safety profile. All the other drugs in development basically are compromising some level of efficacy for better safety. Everyone's trying to get away from opioids, and understandably so. However, if all those drugs worked, got approved, we're still not getting away from opioids because none of them can provide opioid equivalent analgesia to anyone with moderate to severe pain who needs to manage your pain. So since opioids aren't going away, our goal is to go ahead and let's make them safe. And so, so no other TPP in development can make the claim that they're going after opioid equivalent analgesia for better safety profile. The NaV1.8's up here. Alternavex just launched. You might see the ads in the NHL hockey playoffs right now. They're advertising it quite a bit. Their launch did not go well. The pain scores were pretty modest. They failed their chronic study. They got approved for acute pain. 2 deals I mentioned recently, $300 million floor. Those were both sodium channel inhibitors, the same class of drugs as Alternavex. And even if all those are successful, again, they're not going to displace opioids. So I think pharma interest in this is quite significant to generate clinical data. So in summary, we've got a novel addiction modulator with a novel mechanism of action, demonstrated safety and clean tox. We've got a battery of non-clinical evidence, and it really is a pipeline and a product going after a huge market. Also, I didn't mention it, but other investors sometimes are worried about drug pricing reform in this industry. At an MFN pricing scheme, we still have over a $30 billion investment market. So we're really MFN, insulated. Two clinical studies in Australia, 2.5 years roughly to demonstrate clinical proof of principle and value inflection point. Standard structure on a convertible note, 13.3 million pre-money. We've got about 6 million committed right now. And we just got agreement with our lead investor. They've committed 4.5, but the agreement we just reached was that we're going to go ahead and close our first tranche at 7 and then do a rolling close to 10. And the benefit of investors getting in at 7 is they get to actually tranche their first investment, 50% now, 50% upon ethics review committee approval on to proceed with the safety study. So it's more de-risking for investors to get in now as opposed to getting in the second. Thank you.
Great presentation, Aaron. Thanks so much. Mohammed, what's your first question?
Thank you, Aaron, for the presentation. Quick question. Who would be the strategic, or do you already have an idea of the strategic partners or buyers that you would want to potentially attract?
Yeah, there's a number of ponds we can go fishing in, Mohammed. Good question. There's the legacy pain players who are already playing in pain, but there's a whole bunch of other companies that are starting to get into pain, or at least expressing a strategic interest in being in pain, like where Lilly did one of the deals I mentioned earlier on valuation.
And are you in early conversations with any of them about progress or where you are moving?
We've had a couple of informal conversations. We've got $10 million in 2.5 years to get to a 10x value inflection. So it doesn't really make any strategic sense to give away value at this point in the company. But informally, if you ask any of them, hey, if we were to bring you clinical data demonstrating opioid equivalent analgesia without risk of dependence, would you be interested? I mean, the answer is, well, of course. I mean, it's kind of like saying, like cured pancreatic cancer. So the answer to that is always yes. Devil's in the details of the data has to be.
And sorry, last one. And within this particular group, do you think it's more a fit to the legacy player or the new entrants?
Well, the new entrants are actively investing in new mechanisms right now. So they would be probably our first calls. We call everyone, and it's not that we'll wait. So I spent a career doing deals inside large pharma and also inside small biotech, selling large. And Laurence on our call has as well. And so we know a lot of these folks. We'll be having conversations with them in parallel with clinical development, so that when we read out the study, they'll basically just be waiting for our readout. So we'll prime the pump and try to get them in before we read out. So yeah, the new entrants, and then I think the other one would be the specialty branded. So these are folks who, if you look at that sector, they're struggling. They don't have a pipeline story. They're getting eaten up by generics. So they need something novel to come in and continue to grow the franchise. So they would be very interesting.
Got it. Thank you, Aaron.
Great. And Cortland, you just joined. Did you have a question?
Not this time. Aaron, thank you for the presentation the other day.
Yeah, thanks, Cortland. Good to see you.
Great. So, Aaron, my question is let's say the therapeutic goes all the way through FDA approval, it gets bought by a company, and they put it in the market. What kind of money do you make with these kind of drugs and at this scale and at this efficacy?
Well, if you were a big pharma, you would go after all this here. Let me just go back. So big pharma takes this out. The first thing they're going to do, actually, let me go to even. I could just answer. I don't even need to go to a slide, but it helps because there's 4 different markets here. So so we got 4 different markets, 4 different formulations, 4 different value propositions. We're taking the most capital efficient approach and going to proving it out first in the moderate to severe pain, and then we're going to go do a registration study analysis. If big pharma were to take this out, what they would stack the chips up very high and go after the pain market, because that's the largest market. Okay, with a value proposition of opioid equivalent analgesia without reduced risk, with the co-formulation I described earlier. So about 8.5% of the population in the U.S. had high impact chronic pain, meaning, and that excludes acute pain, that's post-surgical, meaning that basically, roughly about 8% of $160 million, or roughly about 12 million people in this country actually, had to alter their life or work situation dealing with pain. And so if you just do the quick math and you only price this thing at a slight premium to generic, and they were only on the drug for 30 days, that's a $5 billion product. That'd be like the floor, right? If you end up pricing it at a premium, Vertex priced Journavex at roughly 10x over generic pricing of opioids. So that 5 billion becomes like 20 billion overnight, something like that. But there's no reason to price it at that. Just pricing it, basically at $8 a day instead of $4 a day for current opioid ER would give you $5 billion product in the US, plus ex-US, probably another $5 billion. So yeah, big pharma would stack the chips up high, go develop it, and launch it as a $10 billion drug.
Okay, my final question is, in plain English, how exactly does the therapeutic work? I saw the Moore's diagram, and there's a scientific explanation, but what's a non-scientific English-only explanation of what's going on there?
Wolfgang, are you on? Do you want to take the non-scientific approach, or do you want me to do it?
Well, I can briefly try. So, the way it works is that the opioid receptor is causing the analgesia, and if you stimulate it more often, you give an analgesic more often, then all kinds of different things happen, and the receptor gets remodeled in the cell to a form that is continuously active, signaling in a different way. And that's causing dependence and hyperalgesia and other things. It's inflammatory. And basically, we found that our compound binds to that form. It doesn't block it instantly, otherwise it would cause a withdrawal. But it reverses the receptor back to the silent form. And that reversal goes over many hours, so it doesn't interfere with the analgesia. And so this is a novel mechanism based on a novel model of the opioid receptor or any receptor signaling. It allows us to prevent dependence in extremely low doses with our compound.
Okay.
So think about Hall, think about a car that you want to operate at 2,000 RPMs, okay? And as soon as you juice it, it gets up to 4,000 RPMs. You want to get it back down to 2,000 RPMs, but you basically have a malfunction in that car that either shuts it down to zero or drives it to 4,000. That's the current situation with pain treatment. We're getting it back down to 2,000 very precisely with a certain governor, which we call ATF 1209. That's a non-scientific way of thinking about it. And this is also why so many pain drugs have failed. People have tried this in the past. They failed because they use antagonists that basically go from 4,000 to zero, or stay at 4,000. Nobody has figured out how to modulate it precisely until Wolfgang came along.
Okay, great. Well, that's the end of our time. I want to thank you for a great presentation, Aaron and Wolfgang. Appreciate that. At this point, we do have a short presentation I'd like to share. We offer this to the investors, and I'll go and share my screen here and walk through it. Take about 10 minutes to walk through. If anybody has any questions, let me know. But many of us are either on the side of raising funding or on the side of investing. And what we want to do is talk about what does it take to actually lead a deal and do due diligence on it. And so if you can see my slides here, we're going to talk a little bit about the diligence phase that's there. Typically, when you're pitching as a startup, for example, like today we have a pitch presentation, maybe you have a follow-up meeting in a few days after this with one of the companies, and then due diligence starts thereafter. One of the things I find important is to keep the momentum going throughout the process. Don't let it stall out for 2, 3, 4 weeks between one meeting and the next. Keep the meetings going and get to due diligence pretty quickly. So at some level, if we're getting something done before people get busy with something else. It's a very busy world. Many people have many things to do and they get distracted. But if you can keep a flow going from pitch to follow-up meeting to first pass due diligence, that often gets the funding all the way through. So there's different levels of diligence out there. If you want to take a very thorough approach, you cover every aspect of the deal. With the market, we heard today about the many market sizes that we have. The product, exactly what it is, how it works, and so forth. Legal IP, looking at the intellectual property, what's filed when, and that type of thing. If it made sense to look at financial revenues, we could look at that right now. Some of this stuff is a little bit further out for the life science deals. And then capitalization, who are the other people in the deal? And finally, you look at the team itself. The other approach to this is to identify the one or two major risks in the deal. What must happen for this to be effective and to be a great company, and then you diligence those to a greater extent. And I find the one that's the most important is the team. Most people want to look at the product, but I find ultimately it's the team that determines the quality of the product, and so we should be looking at the team and to visit with them, find out what their skills are, what they can do, and so forth. So you can look at that aspect. The next thing is if you want to diligence the market, we always talk about the TAM, the total available market. It has to be a very big market, and all three of the companies today had very big markets. But then there's the serviceable market, which is how much of that do we think we can get? And that applies to just our product that we're building now. But the thing I look afterwards is not the sum, but what I look for is the beachhead market. Who are the first 20 customers you're going to sell it to? Who's the first set of patients you're going to go after? Either they're ideal clients for it or they are available to you. You have access to that channel, but there's some logical reasoning behind it. And if you have a beachhead market, it makes a great deal of difference in getting into the market because you're not going to get lost in this very large market. You're going to have a very pointed wedge to get into it and have an immediate success because that often sets the stage for follow-on sales as well. So next is you always also want to look at the team. By all means, look at the resumes and you look for their domain knowledge. And you look at the last thing you look at is this a complete team? One of the things I always do is try to figure out what are the top three skills this company needs in order to be successful. Maybe a technical skill, maybe a business skill, and then maybe an industry skill, and then see who has those three skills. And that gives us a level of completeness, and it also matches it to the specific case that we're going after now. Everybody says the team is important, but I find what that team needs to be varies from one sector to the next, from one company to the next. And understanding what are the skills required to make it successful is one of the first questions to ask before looking at the team itself. The next thing you should look for and other items on the list are, what exactly needs to be done. Now, in the life science, it's pretty clear we have to make that trial work. It has to be efficacious. We have to meet the requirements the FDA has set before us with efficacy, safety, toxicity, and so forth. So we have to look at that aspect of it. But you also can verify the market. These markets do change over time. New players come in. The markets do shift from one to the next. You want to keep in track of that. Can look at financial projections to see what they look at. If it's here and now, some of these financial projections make a lot of sense. If it's 5 years down the road, that can be a little bit harder to try to figure out as well. And then you just look at the team itself and figure out what is their situation with regards to this deal. So some of the flags we often see in startups is that the founders are not investing into their own money. As an investor, we always like to see they have some or they have family and friends in there as well. Sometimes we see the team is incomplete. For some deals, you don't need those players now, but you will down the road. And as long as there's a plan for adding those players at the right time, that can often make a lot of sense. Sometimes the startup doesn't have awareness of the industry. I think everyone today had a very strong awareness of the industry. They knew who the competition was, how effective they were, where they were placed. So that came across very well. You also want to look at the cap table and see how many people are on it. If there's a lot of people, is it crowded? Is it full? That type of thing can be a red flag. And sometimes you have a company with lots of debt. At a very early stage, seed, Series A, having too much debt can be not a great sign. We also have other things over here, such as there's no board of advisors, there's no one else coaching them, and that I find very helpful in a life science company to get a scientific board and a medical advisor board up there to help you with this because they can really add value to the group down the road. Let's see. As a deal lead, if you are leading these deals, some of the things I found as good practice is set up a strong process for diligence, set up the data room, give all the investors who are interested access to it, give them guidance through the data room. I find a lot of people don't know how to navigate through a data room, so you need to set it up so things are easily found and questions they can come up with. Know the deal economics, what the convertible note, safe note, or terms of the deal are, and how they convert into share price at a pricing moment. Also, you want to keep other investors informed, keep them updated as to how things are moving forward. I don't need an email every day, but every other week is a good cadence to give an update that things are moving forward and we're getting progress. It keeps the investors tied back to the deal so that they know that things are still happening there and it's still opportunity for them to get in. Also, want to coach the startup on fundraising. Make sure that they're out there knocking on doors too and following up. One-line emails, are you ready to invest, is probably not an effective email follow-up tool. We need something that has information about how we're making progress with the deal is what's helpful. And just keep the funding moving forward consistently. Not every day, but every other week, something is happening in the deal that gets people to look at it and build the interest that needs to go into it. And then if you can get a board of directors together or a board of advisors in the early stage, that can be very helpful to help get the company off on the right foot as you go forward with it. And then as a lead, you need to add value where you can. That may be on the financial side, maybe on the funding side, or maybe on the operational side. But you want to do as much of that as you can to get people into the deal because they're looking for the lead to kind of take the reins and coach everybody through the process at some level. So after the diligence is complete, you can then decide if you want to invest or not. You have to decide what does it take to make this that this company has to do to be successful, and then see if they have a shot at getting at that and see if they can do it. And then check in on the company on a regular basis to see how they're making progress toward it, and then make the decision if you want to invest in that company or not. So if you have any feedback on this, love to hear from you afterwards about the deal itself. With that, I'd like to go back and thank everybody for a great presentation today. We are at the end of our time here. I think we finished this as well, and we'll go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank all of our presenters for doing a great presentation there. I want to thank our investors for asking great questions. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and close it out now. Were there any questions before we step out?
Thank you all.
Okay. Well, let you guys get back to it. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.